Well, he's the voice at Skagit Speedway. Longtime announcer Kaleb Hart is going to be talking about 2022 Dirt Cup as well as his excitement for 2023. Also about his other gigs that he's got, including the Tulsa Shootout and the Chili Bowl Nationals. That's next here on Getting Up to Speed. Hello, I'm Ben Dethridge, and I'm the host of Getting Up to Speed. We talk to sprint car drivers from the Pacific Coast, whether they race in Oregon, Washington, California. If they run it, we're going to talk about it. Also branch out a little bit, as well as drivers that perhaps are from here that race elsewhere, or some drivers that come in and try and take some money from the West Coast. In these episodes, we talk about past experience, past seasons, as well as upcoming races, as well as how's the season going. We hope you enjoy these episodes. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us out. And stay tuned for more and more content. Now let's get into the interview. Well, on the phone now, the voice of Skagit Speedway, Kaleb Hart. Kaleb, I should also say Deming Speedway as well. Very busy individual. Great to have you on Getting Up to Speed.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. You're right. I wear a lot of hats these days. It's an honor to get to be able to do so much.
Absolutely. I mean, basically it's a 2-day show for you every single weekend when race season comes around.
It can get pretty intense. You're going every Friday and Saturday from April all the way into the end of September, and then sometimes it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and this year you're kicking a Tuesday in on this whole deal too. So yeah, it's fun. I don't have a dull weekend anywhere. That's for sure.
No doubt. And what's interesting, so folks that don't know, Deming Speedway, it is the hotbed of micro sprint racing in the Pacific Northwest, and Skagit Speedway, hotbed for sprint cars in the Pacific Northwest. So there is some correlation between the two. You get some cross-pollination, but for the most part, it's two different sets of groups that you announce for, but they also do have some family ties and some family trees.
Absolutely. I think back to it. My first year at Skagit and Deming was 2005, so I've been around for quite a while now, but I've literally watched the entire open wheel career of Trey Starks, from the first time that he came up at a 600 restricted at Deming all the way through, the fantastic 410 season he just had here at Skagit, minus that little point in the middle where he went out and ran Knoxville in Pennsylvania. But, as far as Northwest accomplishments, I get to follow kids all the way from the start to the up into the big cars, and then wherever they decided to go from there. And it's part of the fun of the whole thing, for sure. The awesomeness that is Deming Speedway and the great show they put on every Friday night, and then all the great things that are happening at Skagit, and it just seems like bigger and more exciting news keeps coming out of that place every week.
No doubt. I mean, it's always fun to kind of go back and reflect to see when people's careers started and everything. It does date you, it does age you a little bit, but I remember Trey and Colin racing quarter midgets at Salem. Logan Forler, same deal, came out of that camp. And, countless others, Devin Madonia in 250 micros, I think they were still running the same time. Jared Peterson, same deal. And look at them now. So.
Yeah, no, I was actually just thinking back the other day, and I saw Glenn Borden post a highlight of this. The first time I went down to Salem was to help wrench on a buddy's midget, and that was the day that Devin Borden beat the 500s with his 250. So, I mean, you can see right back then what kind of talent that Devin Borden would have, and, upwards and onwards for him out and tussling it up with the 410s in Pennsylvania. So it's cool. The Northwest, I don't want to say it gets disrespected, but because we're so isolated up here, sometimes the talent level that we have is overlooked, for lack of a better term. And we put out some serious racing talent here over the past 2 decades that can get the job done at a lot of different levels. And I'm glad to see a lot of them are getting opportunities to do that.
Yeah, no, I think it's not so much that it's a lack of talent or a lack of wealth. It's just, it's isolated. You got the Siskiyous that basically block California off from Oregon, and then you've got the gorgeous and majestic Rockies to the east, on the Washington-Idaho border. It's in its nice little pocket, but like when the Outlaws come, when NARC comes, when it's Dirt Cup weekend, the outsiders come in. It is sort of like it is an area that is defended very well.
It is. And on top of that, too, so that isolation also means that we have to self-sustain. We have to grow our own talent because we don't have talent coming from the outside in. We've got to have people build their own programs up and come up through the ranks. And like in Skagit Speedway's case, when you're trying to rebuild a 410 program, you've got to have your own come out first and support the thing before you're going to get other people to come. And, just this first year back alone, I think we had 70 different drivers enter across all of our events, Outlaws and Dirt Cup included. But, you're going to look at that and you're going to see a lot of guys that are based in Washington, Oregon, British Columbia amongst the three, and then a sprinkling of California to come in and the rest of the travelers. But you do really have to rely on yourself to build your car counts and build your programs to sustain a good entertainment product for your fans. And I think a lot of our Northwest tracks do a really good job of that. And the two that I work for specifically, kudos to them because they've built a really good sustaining model of Deming for years, and Skagit's on quite the comeback.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been so exciting to see that come back and to hear all the drivers that are excited about the 410s and a class that, normally when you eliminate a class, that's it. That's le fin. That's the end of the story. However, that is not the case with Skagit Speedway and 410s. Went away about 2015, and it is resurrected. And I liked last year, and I'm a broken record when I say this, but I liked how they concentrated it around Dirt Cup, around Outlaw Weekend, and sprinkled in a couple single-day standalone shows. But for the most part, a chance for it to really get momentum and really get going.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. When it came back and when the new group came in and they said, we're going to go 410 racing again. And I've openly said this, I was like, okay, I'm going to hope it succeeds, but definitely need to see it happen first. Right. Yeah. I'm a naturally glass half empty guy sometimes when it comes to that. And it did. I think it was the right amount of shows. I think it was the right emphasis on the shows that it had. And frankly, the right pay for the big shows. For years, a big part of the reason that high-end racing dies, that, your premier classes like a 410 will go away in an area is because it's too expensive to run the car versus what they're putting back in their pocket at the end of the night. And, the mid 2000s, 2015, like you said, was a crescendo of expense rising in 410 racing, amongst other things. At the point where, you couldn't make enough money back running the shows that you were running to justify keeping a 410 around just for the 8 to 10 nights at Skagit a year. I think the smartest thing that this promotion group did coming back in was up the pay, and not just up the pay for the 410s for what it was, as it was they were the third highest weekly purse for 410 racing in all of sprint cars. But then they jacked up the 360 purse, and they jacked up the sportsman purse and the modifieds and the midgets, because everything got more expensive. And I think that was huge. I think it was really big to help get the drivers back on the side of wanting to come back to Skagit Speedway, was to just put more money in their pocket so that they could come out, have fun, and entertain the fans that are coming to the grandstands.
Yeah, no doubt, and I think it's a bet that's gonna go very well. And 410s all across the board, from Skagit, which is only not just an hour or so away from the U.S. Canadian border, all the way down to the Central Valley in California. There's just this renaissance of 410 sprint car racing. NARC has been injected with this energy and enthusiasm. Silver Dollar Speedway bouncing back. Peter Murphy, who has big dealings with Skagit Speedway, with his involvement at King Speedway and having 410s come there. But overall, outside of 410s, as well as including 360s, it's really a great time to be a sprint car fan.
Oh, of course. You got some incredible stuff happening here in the Northwest alone and across the country, too. Just the fact, I know you pay a lot of attention to a lot of different kinds of racing yourself, Ben, not just in open wheel, but a lot of fendered stuff as well. Yeah, I really started noticing this momentum in dirt track racing when the late model guys started scheduling all of those gigantic big paying races back to back to back. And Eldora started running 4 straight nights where everybody was making 75 grand a night to win a late model race. And that had a trickle down effect. It almost caused an arms race amongst promoters to go, okay, we can pay that. Let's do it. And it's gone across divisions, and it's made for some really insane, cool shows popping up all over the place. You know, obviously Skagit Speedway's got a renaissance going on in terms of getting Dirt Cup back to the prestige where it was. Deming Speedway's got one of the highest paying micro sprint races in the country. It's a top 5 race in Clay Cup because Paul's been committed to having that and becoming a marquee event. You go all the way up and down the coast, and now it's to the point where down there in Oregon, you've got 2 speed weeks that you guys are going to have for the 360s, and limited speed week is becoming a bigger thing. The mod speed week gets bigger and bigger every year. And then you dip into California and you see that the high limit series is making its 2023 debut all the way down to Tulare. I mean, that's all stuff that's within a semi-reasonable travel distance for anybody who wants to see great racetrack stuff on the West Coast. And it's really a positive, again, not just for us, but for the sport as a whole.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, you look at dirt late model racing, and I think that has sort of been, I wouldn't say the trailblazer, but it's definitely a lot of people like taking notice to it on all sorts of different genres of racing, dirt, pavement, you know, you whatever have it, you know, and the whole, like the Lucas Oil series. I mean, there's so many races that are paying $50,000 to win, and you know, granted, they don't race 90 times, they don't race 100 times. However, the pay is good. You know, Flow Night Racing in America pays good. You know, there's just even other unsanctioned races that pay good in the Super DLM stuff. And I mean, the money's good and everything. And I think the sprint cars are kind of, I wouldn't say that they were shying away from it, but they're like, okay, well, we can do this. Like, so all of a sudden we've got $1 million race at Eldora, you know, $250,000 race at Huset's, and of course the staples, Knoxville, Kings Royal. And it's good to see, because somebody put a post out there last year that there's only X amount of sprint car races that pay over $40,000, and look at all the dirt late model stuff. And it's like, well, you know, you got a point. But now I think a lot of people saw that post, and it's like, hey, guess what? Not only are we going to pay more, but we're going to pay good out the back as well, which is just as important. I mean, it's cool to win $100,000. It's cool to win $1 million, but it's also really cool to acknowledge the people that make up the full field and pay good out the back, as well as the people that don't make the show, the B mainers, the C mainers, the D mainers. That's what makes the difference.
Yep, you mentioned that, and, you know, to that extent, Dirt Cup took a pay hike again this year, too, as a $62,000 to win race. But Pete's also committed to paying more out the back of the field as well, shifting some money around and giving a little more to that 2 start. And like you said, that really draws the back end of your car count. That draws, you know, the big numbers for what everybody else is coming out to run for, because all these guys roll in the racetrack thinking they can win, but that 2 start money is the, okay, cool. If everything goes bad, we can at least bank on this for our trip home. That way we continue our program. And I think it's gigantic. You know, the guy who really deserves a lot of credit for a lot of the growth I think we're seeing in open wheel dirt too, and especially this cross, I want to say cross breeding, but sprint car fans becoming dirt late model fans, and dirt late models watching sprint cars, and all of it is actually Kyle Larson.
Sure.
Larson dipping down from NASCAR and running as much dirt as he has the last couple of years, and really opening up these fan bases' minds to the other forms of racing, bringing crowds into these other forms of racing and helping draw the promoters money so they can pay more at the pay window. I think it's huge, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for the influence that he's had on that going forward to try to grow dirt racing as a sport in a whole, because he draws a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, he went from being, you know, like, nothing against somebody that just stays in one class, but he's he's a multi-genre driver. He's not a
Yep.
he's not just a country music artist or a pop artist or anything. It's kind of, yeah, don't kill me for this, but like Taylor Swift is a cross-genre artist. The Beatles,
Absolutely.
Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley was sort of the original, so, sort of like that. Not saying
Hmm.
that Kyle Larson's Elvis Presley. However, he's very talented, and because there had been some guy, Donnie Schatz had done a little bit of some late model stuff. Tim
Hmm.
McCready, late model guy, super dirt modified guy, former Chili Bowl winner, had dabbled in some open wheel stuff. So it can be done and success can be had, but just the energy and just the wave of fans that he's brought is great for racing overall.
Yep.
Amazingly.
He's done a killer job at that. And, I got to talk to him. Obviously he wasn't at the Chili Bowl this year, but Chili Bowl the year before. And I had never actually had a substantial conversation with Kyle. And I let it off with, hey, on behalf of all of us dirt track people, thank you. You're doing the dirt track sport an incredible amount of good when you show up. And I don't know if enough people are appreciative for what you're doing there. And, had a good conversation that followed that. And I think it's something that he's cognizant of what his brand means to when he shows up to an event. And I hope that the promoters in the series that are reaping the benefits of that definitely appreciate that.
Well, what I like about Kyle Larson the most, when all the times that I've talked to him, is he's just a normal guy.
Very
Sure,
much so.
sure, he's accomplished all these wonderful things, and of our generation, one of the greatest of, if not one of the greatest of all time, like a Mount Rushmore-esque type status. However, he's, at the end of the day, he's humble, and same with Steve Kinzer, very humble. Not
Mm-hmm.
Came from Bloomington, Indiana. Kyle Larson, same deal. He's proud from where he comes from, Elk Grove, California. He makes sure, you make sure that you announce that kind of thing. And
Yep.
hometown pride, home state pride. It's it's really cool to see. It would be so easy, I think, to kind of lose that and just shy away and not really turn into somebody else. But he's the same he was kind of when he started coming up to, and he went up to Dirt Cup very early in his career back in
Mm-hmm.
the 2000s decade.
He did. He didn't have a great success, but at the same time, you could see the base level talent there. That this is okay. This is a guy who at a very young age is very, very capable in this race car. Let's see where his career goes, and obviously it completely exploded thereafter. I appreciate about Kyle too that he puts his money where his mouth is. He's put funds back into making Silver Dollar Speedway great again. He's fielded outlaw teams. He's done a lot of good for this sport, and like you said, he retains that humility of being just a kid from Elk Grove. So he's an awesome ambassador for us, and gosh, I hope we get to have more of him doing dirt stuff. Obviously, he's got a lot of responsibilities at Hendrick right now, flying the flag and being a Cup champion a couple of years ago. But man, the more we can get him around the dirt, the better off we're going to be.
Well, something that I'm excited of, or I'm hoping to be a part of, is Dirt Cup in some form, spectator, whatever it's going to be. But for someone like me who's never been to Dirt Cup, I think it would be safe to say it's inexplainable of what that weekend is and what it means. Sure, there's so many other races. There's hundreds of races out there: Trophy Cup, Gold Cup, Knoxville Nationals, Kings Royal. But Dirt Cup, for somebody in the Pacific Northwest, is just something a little bit more special, I think.
Sure is. And last year it felt special again. It had been a little while, and I want to make absolutely no disrespect intended to what Dirt Cup was before, during that period of time, 2015 through 2021, where it was not a 410 race once again. Something about the Californians coming up to challenge makes Dirt Cup feel a little bit different. There was a little buzz back in the campground again. You came into the weekend thinking, this is special. And frankly, the 360 racing for the years the Dirt Cup was fantastic. I loved the heat race qualifier, etc. format that we saw with that. But this year was different, and it brought that old magic back and that buzz. And we had Tyler Courtney flying out from Indiana to run and race and taking home $76,000 on Saturday night. It was so nice to be back to that once again. It was pretty incredible, and already something that I'm looking forward to coming up here in 2023. Just because last year was so special to be a part of.
Well, I think what's going to be really cool too is there's going to be drivers that run Skagit Speedway with some more 410 experience. It's not like in years past they dropped the class as a weekly program, and the only chance they would run 410s would be Outlaw Weekend, right? So, yep. You have the Trey Starks, the Jason Solwalds, the Colton Heaths, and some others, from the area, yep. as well as, in California, chance like it's like who could win this thing? I mean, it's and close that gap. That's what I'm excited to see.
I am too, especially hearing that there's some more guys building cars. I think the division's going to grow again. 4 more cars thereabout. I know 2 for sure, and I'd heard rumors of a few more. So upping that level of weekly competition amongst each other, which, iron sharpens iron. You're going to get better racing against each other, doing better, and being ready for the California contingent when they come in, and being ready for the Outlaws when they come to town on a, 3-day big pace show for the Sage Fruit Skagit Nationals that happens. So it's a big deal, and the more guys build cars, the more guys up their programs and put more into the power plants that they have underneath them is going to make for even better racing, and it's going to make for a even more competitive dirt cup, which is hard to imagine considering how good the racing was last year.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it'll be one of those deals where it will not be this guy, this hot shoe's flying in, and it's just write the check to him. Like what everyone else is running for third place right now. I think they're gonna, I'm not a predictive person. I don't have a crystal ball by any means, but I think what's going to be great too is it's going to be televised, and people are going to be like, wow, look at this place. Look at they've made more improvements. They made this event better. There's more cars. There's, the competition is closer. And like you said, bring that buzz back more and more each year.
We talked about it at our we did a recent night where we thanked our advertisers and marketing partners and sponsors. And we talked a little bit about Dirt Cup in particular and Flow Racing's presence at Dirt Cup this year, where we had that Monday night standalone show, which was against nothing. And that's a really important thing to look at in the grand scheme of, because, the way the calendar's starting to fall, there's a big race every weekend somewhere, and sometimes you're just going to overlap something else. But on a Monday night, it's not frequent to see a whole ton of racing content unless you got a speed week going here or there. So we had that Monday night show, and according to the demographics that we got, both the Monday night show and then the rest of the week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, drew over 70,000 unique views to the platform watching Skagit Speedway those nights. That's pretty incredible. That's a lot of eyeballs on what Monday night was just, you say, normal race, but, a $4,000 to win warm-up race. That's before the weekend kicks in, and the weekend, there's another big race on this weekend, but I'll put Dirt Cup and Skagit Speedway up against that. And again, my memory of the event from last year, I imagine that viewership number is just going to grow with Flow, considering how much more continues to load onto their platform as well of cool stuff to watch. So it was nice to hear that we had so many eyeballs on us, and we put a really good foot forward.
Well, it's really cool that they put it on a weekday, because historically the Dirt Cup tune-up, and correct me if my history is incorrect here, but it's always been like the Saturday before, but that sort of gives that hook for a viewing audience on a non-traditional race day of like, oh man, let's see what's on. Oh my gosh. Yep. Well, they're racing for 3 more days, after a day off, because I think it's a Tuesday now, not a Monday.
Correct.
But it's sort of like a primer for the weekend, and it gets everybody's minds thinking of like, oh, I really need to watch that race. I mean, it's a great marketing tool.
And I think they knocked it out of the ballpark, moving it off that Saturday. That way, they tried to package up that little speed week that went with that, and unfortunately, that speed week hit really bad weather. But I think that speed week was a great idea on the way up, and it encouraged some more people to come up and do it, and then to have your warm-up race off the Saturday so you could go start a speed week, come on up, have that be part of it, and then put a big bonus on how many nights of that week you win. Great idea. And then again, moving it off of a Saturday so that the warm-up wasn't up against a bunch of competition, but that the warm-up could see all that many eyes and get people excited to watch the rest of this event for the rest of the week. I thought it was a really smart idea, and moving it to Tuesday of this next week, I think, of this coming year, is a sharp idea too, and I'm excited to see how it works.
And not just, fans watching, but race teams like, ooh, I like the way this thing races. I like the way the events ran. I'm going to make it next year. So it's all one big trickle down effect.
Exactly. Well, here's a cool thing for wing sprint car teams, and especially in and about that time of the year, you've got a lot of choices of where you can go to run for big money. And if you think you're a guy who can win big money, you have got opportunity all over the place. What we showed is that you have opportunity to win all over the place, and you can get a lot of races in that shot too, with more chance to fill your pockets and, put some money back into the racing budget by coming out a little bit early and hitting that entire swing up. If I remember the bonus last year, if you had won 4 nights, was like $25,000 extra. If you won 6, it was like 75 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Huge money on top of just, the main event on Saturday night itself, plus the lap sled bonus. So, guys could choose to make the haul out here. And there's some teams in the middle of the country, you never know what they're going to decide, but they made that run out. They could find themselves in a very lucrative position.
Yes, no doubt. And 2023 for you, it's already began. You had the Chili Bowl Nationals, and a few weeks before that, at the tail end of 2022, you had the Tulsa Shootout, and that seemed to keep you occupied, seemed to keep you pretty busy.
Yeah, I've already put 11 nights in the bank already this year. So you get back from the second week of Tulsa and you kind of don't want to see a race car again for a little while. But you've seen enough cars making left turns to last you for a while. But I am extremely blessed. Met the right people at the right time in my life when they needed a guy to come down and be a part of that show, and got the invite and have been lucky enough to get the invite going back in the years to follow. And there is nothing like Tulsa. It is such a unique and incredible environment, racetrack, and racing, that anybody who hasn't gone to just experience the vibe in the arena on Saturday of Chili Bowl is doing themselves an injustice as a race fan, because there's just this electricity that permeates through the entire building, from the drop of the green flag at the first main event of like the P main or whatever the heck it was that we ran this year, the O main event, wherever it ended up being. The environment is so completely unique. And, you talk to people from the Northwest who have gone, just even made one, they go, man, I got to get back. If I can't do this yearly, I got to figure out when I can come back to this deal, because it's just unique and unlike anything else. It's weird to say that it's the highlight of my year, but when I reflect back on the race year, I usually reflect back on 4 events really. And the first one that I reflect back on is my experience in Tulsa. You think about Clay Cup, Dirt Cup, and then the Outlaws too. But the first one I almost always go to is Tulsa.
And you've been a part of the broadcast team for how many years? It's been several now, yeah?
I am... What was this? This was my 7th Tulsa Shootout and 6th Chili Bowl.
Okay.
Let me count, because I always remember them by the driver race wins at the Chili Bowl, and I have one more shootout that I have Chili Bowl. So I saw 2 Christopher Bell wins, 2 Kyle Larson wins, the Tanner Thorson win, and the Logan Seavey win. So yeah, 7 shootouts, 6 Chili Bowls now.
Well, I got to say, I was busy at the IMCA.TV Winter Nationals for most of it, so I didn't get to see a lot of Chili Bowl action, but I did happen to watch the one where it was a prelim night where there was some unfortunate circumstances. Thank God and
Yeah.
everything in heaven that it turned out okay the way everything played out. But just got to commend you. You did a fantastic top shelf quality job of because it's a tough position to be in, of having to kind of control and inform people what's going on, even when you don't know yourself that things are going to be all right.
Thank you. That was the weirdest night I have ever had on a broadcast. That was so strange, and it was really scary too. But as you're on the air and you've got this responsibility to the viewing audience to help them get through what they think they saw, because it was traumatic what everybody saw. And so that sense of responsibility to be a calm, mature adult about that kicked in. And that's what got me through that period of time. And, thank God for the incredibly talented team that I have with me down there, because they all were up and picked up on the same vibe, and we did what we had to do to keep people informed without being wildly speculative or without, causing any additional hysteria. There was enough people who were going through enough already. Our job wasn't to make it worse. Our job was to help people get through what they had seen. And it was a weird night. It came to an end. You kind of compartmentalize all the emotions that you're feeling and you stick them off to the side until you can deal with them. I grabbed them. I stuck them off to the side and waited till I was on my drive home, and I called drive back to the hotel, called my parents, and I broke down on the phone because it was scary. And, it was a lot to just deal with. And a lot of us just kind of felt like we were in a funk until about, heat races were done the next night. And then there was some sense of normalcy that started to return. Some positive health updates had come out at that point in time, and we're starting to feel better about it. But it still doesn't change the fact that we watched that car flip and we watched Ashton come out of it, and we all thought he was dead. So, started getting past that, and it made it better. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It was such a weird night, and I hope we never have to relive it.
It's no doubt probably the most number one thing that you never want to cover.
Right.
I've only had something like that happen once where somebody passed away, and that one was kind of tricky, and then we kept racing kind of deal. But no, I mean, being an announcer, especially with broadcasts now, is it's a tough job, on top of commentating, but you never know, the power goes out, right? Or the speakers blow a breaker and you don't
right.
know. Fortunately
right.
for the broadcast, it keeps going on. But I mean, I don't know how many times that a transformer blows up at a racetrack and there's something crazy going on and people are starting to panic and you can't say anything because the speaker, it's such a helpless situation sometimes.
It's weird. In the course of Skagit, I've dealt with a power outage on a night that Casey Kane was there, right? And you lose the back straightaway lights. It's just that wow. How did that happen on a night when Casey's here? This is weird. And last year we were going to lose power. It was a fireworks show and we were about to lose the power, like the power might have shut off before the fireworks started. Okay. Talk about serendipitous timing, right? We had to turn the lights off anyways, but so the bosses are coming in going, hey, we might lose power before this happens. Yeah. What are you going to do? I'm like, well, we'll play it off as if it's normal. And then if it doesn't come back on after, we'll just tell people, hey, you're going to have to use the flashlights on your cell phones to get out to the car. The lights aren't coming back on, but you can't prep for those situations at all. You just got to be realistic that, okay, here's what I can do. Here's how I can help the people get through what we're experiencing right now. And what's in your control is what's in your control. You kind of have to leave it up to God in a lot of circumstances for those weird acts of things that you just, okay, cool. Well, let's see what we can do next.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. It's funny that you say that. That was the first time I went to Skagit was that night that you almost lost power.
Yeah, okay, cool. Here's what's going to happen. All right, cool. We're
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So, well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to trying to get up there a couple times this year, and hopefully at some point down the road work with you again. It's always a pleasure and everything. But before I go, though, anybody that you want to thank that has gotten you to the point where you've gotten?
Uh, God, I could take an hour doing that. There's so many people. My my parents, my mom would be mortified because she's not a racetrack person at all. But Dad brought me to the races way back when as a little kid, and I never wanted to be the guy driving the car, although I had a little while I did. I always wanted to be the guy talking about him, and he was the one who kind of helped me just pave the way into doing that. And it's become the kind of thing that I don't know what my life would be if I didn't have the outlet of getting to be a track announcer or broadcaster. So, for those who like me, you can thank my dad, and for those who don't, there's plenty of them out there. You can curse his name. So he'd be the biggest influence, and he'd be the guy that if I only got to thank one, him for sure. And there's been a lot of people who have given me chances over the years to try and do something and come out and help entertain and inform people. My current employers and the groups at Skagit and Deming Speedway and, Evergreen Speedway gives me a pretty cool platform to do some TV stuff on as well. And I'd be remiss to not thank them. And then of course, the fine folks at Flow Racing who have Tulsa Shootout and Chili Bowl. And, I would have to thank Scott Traylor, who was the guy who gave me my first shot to go down and do that with Racing Boys. So it was his idea, and, just been very, very lucky and blessed since then to continue on. And heck, of all the places that I've been before too, Wenatchee and Ephrata, and a little work at Tri-Cities and a little work at Yakima. I've done a lot of cool stuff. I've had a pretty cool career, and hopefully I get to keep going for a little while longer.
Yeah. Oh, and I was going to mention that about the Evergreen deal. For folks that don't know or in the local Washington area, go ahead and tell about the Evergreen Speedway thing.
Sure. So a couple of years ago, they asked me to come help out with a TV show that they pre-record, and then they air on Sunday nights on the CW11 channel, KSTW, out here in the Western Washington. And it's the film crew films everything that happens at the races on Saturday night. And then the production team grabs it and edits it together into about an hour and 40 minutes of here's what happened at the races, but we treat it as if it's live. Mm-hmm. We recorded on Tuesday nights at the TV studio at Evergreen, and then it airs the following Sunday. So, it's a little bit of, hey, this is what happened. If anybody wanted to know at the time, they can obviously go and sit in the stands of races, or they can find the results out. But it is a very cool look on network television in the Seattle area of what went on at the region's biggest asphalt track. So kind of a cool deal, and I'm lucky to get to be a small part of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember slightly hearing about that, and I learned a little something out of that bit. So, but yeah, like I said, thank you for coming on. It's been wonderful to share your story with everybody, and like I said, looking forward to working with you in the future, however many times that's going to be. And yeah, I always love coming to Skagit Speedway. You're always so welcoming.
Well, I appreciate the chance to be on your show, Ben. Thank you. I appreciate you doing the show, too. It's really helped a lot of the Northwest guys highlight a lot of the stuff that they're up to and increase their brand awareness, too. So thank you so much for the invite and for doing the program. It's cool, and we'll see you up at the racetrack whenever you can make it. So that sounds like a good plan to me.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Anytime.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this latest episode of Getting Up to Speed with me, Ben Dethridge. We hope you enjoyed this program. We hope also that you hit the subscribe button and the like button, as that really helps things out, spreads things out. Be sure and share as well on social media so that more people can listen to these great interviews and from these great drivers. Getting Up to Speed is a production of Highside Racing Promotions. For more information, you can check it all out on Facebook at Highside Promotions.